So I'm going to be sharing my screen in a different way because this is an interactive presentation. If you want to participate, you can. You always will learn best if you are participating when it comes to AI. So be prepared to do some typing, but mostly copying and pasting because I don't want to make you all use your brains too much this early in the morning. I know it's earlier for me, and I know we've got Meredith who's in Alaska, so I'm mostly going to have you copy and paste things into AI and see how it works. So my session is called How to Use AI to Accelerate Your Grant Writing. And I'm just so grateful to be here. This is my first Instrumentl webinar. I've done a ton of webinars over the years. Starting in 2016, I opened my business back in 2015, doing grant writing consulting for clients all around the world. I'm originally from West Virginia, and I saw we had some West Virginians in here earlier. So shout out to you all and Appalachians in general. That's really where my love for grant writing started. I earned my PhD in 2015 in rhetoric, composition, and literacy studies from Ohio State. Go Buckeyes. So I did my research on the rhetorics of advocacy in Appalachia. Through my dissertation research and some activist work that I just kind of ended up falling into in that last couple of years in my program, I realized there was a big need to bring kind of higher level writing skills into nonprofit work, both research and writing. And I wanted to work with nonprofits that I was passionate about. So rather than applying to a bunch of faculty positions when I graduated, I went straight into development work and then quickly realized I did not like rubbing elbows with the rich folks in Oklahoma who were all oil and gas people. You know, if that's your thing, okay, not my thing. I wanted to sit in my office by myself with my door closed and write, okay? That was my passion. And I also have a huge passion for teaching, right? So I went to school to learn to teach writing, right? And I taught writing in universities for 7 years. So as soon as I opened my business, pretty much the next year, I started teaching how to write grants because I saw a gap in the education. There are a ton of great educators on this call right now. Back then, there wasn't quite as much out there. There weren't as many resources. It was mainly books that I felt were not teaching the higher level writing skills that a lot of people need to advance their grant writing practice. So that's a little bit on me. I don't like to talk too much about that. I want to just get straight into the content. So today you are going to learn what AI is and how it works, grant writing use cases for AI, ChatGPT and Bard best practices. Those are the two generative AI chatbots we're going to be talking about today. How to write a compelling statement of need using AI. So I now teach how to write all parts of the grant with AI, but for today, I really wanted to focus on, narrow in on one specific part so you could get a more in-depth training. And then if we have time at the end, I'm going to do a little trick for you all and show you how to train AI on your tone and style, because I know it's a big concern for a lot of people. As I said earlier, this is an interactive training, so I encourage you to participate. And even if you want to copy and paste what you generate in AI into the chat, I invite you to do that. Zoom will only let you paste so much, but you can paste parts of it and share things that you found interesting. Okay, now I would love for you just to tell me in the chat, just, you know, no poll for this, just write down whatever you think is the most challenging part of grant writing for you, whether that's specific types of tasks, whether that is a specific section. What is the most challenging part of grant writing for you? Character limits. Ooh, okay. Time, budgets, financials, budgets, post-award, fresh language to describe long-term issues. reporting when the clients don't track. Oh man, that's something right now, AI, I haven't figured out a way to scratch that with AI, but I'm sure there will be in the future. Knowing what they care about, time management, vocabulary, amount to ask, budgets that don't make sense, starting, okay. Data for justification, funders asking so many different questions, budget narratives, okay. There are so many of those that AI can just kind of snap and eliminate, right? Literally, like the problem of the blank page, AI will eliminate that for you in about 10 seconds, okay? That's always a big problem, is writer's block. Coming up with fresh language for things, you can always get fresh language using AI. Budgeting and narratives even, AI can help with that. So let's get started. Thank you all so much for sharing all of those different issues and concerns. Now, I just want to take a poll so I know kind of how to gauge folks on the call. Tell me, how experienced are you with using AI to write? It doesn't necessarily have to be for grants. It can be writing copy for blog posts or social media posts, whatever. The skills that you learn in AI prompting transfer across. Okay. Beginner, none. Okay, we'll wait and see how the poll shakes out here in a second. So I started writing with AI back in November when ChatGPT became publicly available. And this was after seeing Jasper AI advertised on Facebook for a while and being like, seems kind of icky to me. I don't want to be using software just to say the same words that everyone else is saying to promote my stuff. Yeah. Oh, okay. Regini, I am going to shatter that, that research concern. I'm going to teach you how to use it for research. Oh, nice. Someone did their paper on AI in 11. Okay, so poll results are in. 37% say none, 38% say beginner, 19% say intermediate, and 6% say advanced. Awesome. I hope I can reach all of you at some level for using AI with grant writing. All right. Now, who here, I just want to hype you up, pump you up. Who is ready to learn how to write a grant using AI? Who is ready to learn? Give me a yes. Give me a yes. Awesome. Now I could go, I'm working on developing ways to measure how much it has actually helped us reduce the amount of time that we use in our consulting business to write grants for clients. But as you know, there's so much like information gathering back and forth that we're trying to find a way to actually track it. But I have written entire grant drafts in 7 minutes with all sections of the grant. That's the draft 1, okay? But with the prompts I've developed, you can write the whole draft in 7 minutes, okay? And then from there, you can develop it out. And that's including research, program design, budgeting, okay? I know that sounds hard to believe. It is true. I have a video of it on YouTube if you want to check it out. First, let's get a quick overview of generative AI, because I know there are folks who are totally beginners. So I want you to understand what it is and how it works so that we can understand as writers its capabilities as well as its limitations. So what is AI? AI is the development of computer systems that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. So examples of AI tasks include understanding language, recognizing patterns, problem solving, and learning from experience. How does it work? In AI development, rather than a human directly using the software created by another human, AI takes data as input and it generates the actual software that is utilized. This process is known as AI system training or learning, and the final outcome is commonly referred to as a model. So how can we use it? So for example, ChatGPT, which is just one AI that I use, is a chatbot that uses generative pre-trained transformer, right? That's the GPT part. It's an artificial intelligence language model that uses the transformer architecture for natural language processing tasks, which means making it sound like humans are speaking. So GPT generates that human-like text, and many tools that you all are already using and don't know that are out there are built using its API. All right, and language models are, if anyone's like, okay, it builds a language model, what is that? It's a mathematical tool and algorithm for analyzing, processing, and generating human language. They can range from shallow to deep and advanced large models trained on vast amounts of data for high performance language processing. Sorry, my screen keeps taking a second here. Okay, now large language models like OpenAI's GPT-4 and Google's Palm 2, which is what Bard uses, are trained on massive amounts of data. And this is the part I really want you all to key in on. They're trained on billions of words that they have been fed and have billions of parameters, or in the case of GPT-4, they have a trillion. That helps it understand the relationships between those words, okay? So that they can accurately and quickly process and understand language. One of the common misconceptions is AI is just pulling things from the internet, like copying, pasting. It's not. It learned from billions of words, both online and specific text that it was fed, and it generates its own words and the way language is put together. All right, now let's talk generative AI use cases for grant writing. We had people in here talking about, yeah, we just use it for drafting, but not researching. You can use it for almost everything right now. And it has already come a long way since I started using it back in November. So we use it for grant drafting, grant strategy, program design, grant revision, grant editing, and summaries of large amounts of information. You can also use it for supplemental materials or materials that come after the grant, like sending thank you letters to grant makers for awards. You can use it for grant reports. You can even take the grant that you wrote and generate a press release saying that you won it in the same chat by just saying, take this grant that I wrote, it was awarded, now create a press release announcing it. You can even do your social media, sharing your grant award with everybody without having to share any more information, right? You just pop it in that same chat that you were in and say, now give us 5 different social media posts for Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and it will write those for you. It even writes TikTok scripts with descriptions of shots that you put along with the text. It's incredible. Now, one thing that a lot of people have concerns with is combating bias in generative AI, and it is a big concern. It is something we have to be aware of. So responses generated by generative AI are based on the patterns it learned from the training data, which, as we know, everything in the world contains biases. So people were always working on the back end trying to eliminate those biases from the training data, but it's impossible to remove all bias. So what are they doing to combat this issue? They're doing continuous monitoring and improvement, which is, of course, necessary to prevent perpetuating those biases in society. And creators can use tools to analyze language and adjust the model, so the people in the back end, to reduce the likelihood of generating biased responses in the future. And there are literally whole summits on this. So I can't talk too much about it. If I'm going to also show you how to use ChatGPT, just know it is something I take seriously and I'm, of course, concerned about. And, you know, everyone has to think about their own ethical concerns. I kind of liken it to, you know, using Facebook. There are just as many issues with using Facebook or other social media as there are with ChatGPT. We're just more used to it at this point and more accepting of it. So we kind of have to think through how we use it and figure out what our personal relationship and our professional relationship is to it. Now, another really important note I want you all to think about is data security and privacy. I literally just logged in to a new thing on a new chat on Bard, and the first thing that popped up was human reviewers may process your Bard conversations for quality purposes. Don't enter sensitive info. So they're at every turn trying to remind you of this, okay? So it is specifically ChatGPT. I know more about its privacy policies and considerations and methods than Bard. Bard is a little less forthcoming. It's Google, right? They already know everything about you, sorry. But ChatGPT is designed to be secure, protect user privacy, but potential security risks do exist. Bard, yeah, B-A-R-D. So don't share personal information such as social security numbers, passwords, or bank account info, which I don't know why you would, but just make sure you don't. And be wary of any messages from ChatGPT or OpenAI that require you to click on a link or open or provide personal information. They're never going to ask you to do that, okay? All right, now we're going to learn how to use ChatGPT and Bard. I was mainly a ChatGPT person back in November, but then some limitations came about that made me move towards Bard and like use them in combination. Now, why ChatGPT and Bard? They're both free. Does everyone's ears perk up right there? These are free tools, okay? You do not have to pay for these. There are other grant writing software with AI out there that charge you. And some of them are like, you know, nothing wrong with them. I think they're great. But if to me, I'm the person that, you know, part of my program and my PhD was digital media studies. When I was going to learn how to build websites, I wasn't just going to learn how to do the WYSIWYG editor, the what you see is what you get editor on WordPress. I was like, I need to learn HTML and CSS so that I really understand what I'm doing and how this works, and I can do more. So that's kind of my approach to it, but there are other softwares out there that implement the chatbots. I think ChatGPT, the free version, was worth it up until July. I'll tell you more about that in a second. ChatGPT and Bard are two of the most widely used generative AIs. Used together, I think they're even more powerful. Okay, if you want to sign up, if you're not signed up already, I'll pop these in the chat. It used to take a minute and required phone verification, and back in the day, which was just a few months ago, you know, it required being on a wait list. But I think now we could probably skip that part and you'll probably just get registered immediately. And then for Bard, this is very simple. If you already have a Google account that's not part of a workspace account, you can access Bard just by, oops, yep, I just clicked on that on my slide and it took me right to it. It's not going to let me copy it. Maybe one of the team can, maybe Ryan can copy and paste that into the chat for you all. Thank you, Mia. Thank you. So if you are part of a Google workspace like our team is, you'll need your administrator to enable access to Bard, or you can just log into a different Google account, like your private Google account, and use it. There's nothing special that you have to do. Now, here's where we get into the research part. Someone mentioned earlier, like they don't trust it for research because it's based on data from 2021 and before. That is true of ChatGPT. It cannot connect to the internet, as in it cannot pull in research from the internet under the free version without an extension, and the extension that web ChatGPT can be buggy sometimes, but it up until July 3rd could access the internet through the paid version of ChatGPT without having the web ChatGPT extension. But I really preferred the internal ChatGPT web connection versus web ChatGPT. It can also save a ton of chats. Bard only more recently started being able to save chats. So every time you prompt it, you might want to open a new chat if it's for a different grant, or you can go back into an old chat and redo questions, add questions, get more depth, just copy and paste what you wrote. Okay, so they both can do that now. ChatGPT to me has more flexibility and has kept more for me because it has been doing it for so long. Now, Bard accesses the internet and incorporates research without enabling any web extensions, without toggling that off and on. It automatically pulls that in. With Bard, memory and learning about your preferences is more limited, in my opinion, than ChatGPT, okay? All right, let's get into some best practices that will help you be successful no matter what kind of questions you are asking. First, be specific with your input. And this is something I always say with writing. I've taught through my course, Grant Writing Made Easy, over 10,000 students how to write grants. And the thing that we always talk about in our workshops are how can you be more specific? So it goes for ChatGPT as well and Bard. The more specific you can be with your questions, which are your input or your prompts, the better the response is going to be. And so back in early days, I remember people saying using ChatGPT is kind of like asking a sixth grader a question. It gives you a sixth grade answer. And my response is, if you're getting a sixth grade answer, it's because you put in a sixth grade question. You have to elevate your input in order to get the elevated responses that you want. All right, next, test different input. It's not just put one thing in and get the perfect thing back out. If you ask it a question, you realize it's not as specific, you can add specificity to it. In that same chat, you don't have to re-ask the question. You can just say, okay, can you expand upon this specific part of this? Or can you define this term? Or can you research X, Y, and Z and add it to your last response? So you learn the different inputs that work best for the type of work that you're doing. I'm giving you a prompt cheat sheet that Ryan and Mia can put in the chat that I have kind of fine-tuned so that you can more easily figure out what prompts to put in for grant writing. Next, provide feedback. Tell the chatbot what you like and don't like about its responses. There is a thumbs down and a thumbs up, and there's also space to give it actual written feedback. Like, I love how specific you are in this part, but I need more explanation on this part. Or you can say, please use more informal language, or please use more formal language, okay? It is going to learn from you within that singular chat what your preferences are and what you need for that particular task. Also, like I just said, revise as you go. So don't just take the draft, copy and paste it into a doc, and then revise it as a whole. Go in and ask it to revise as you're going. That way, you're not trying to copy and paste back and forth between your doc, between your chatbot. This makes it a lot more of a streamlined process. Number 5 is refine the tone. A lot of people are very concerned about creating writing that is too formal, too bland, too general, lots of different things. And if you don't like the tone or the voice or the style, you can feed it your original writing and then ask it to match that voice, tone, and style. Okay, I'll show you that at the end. But you can even just put in a few sentences and say, make this whole draft that you just wrote more in this tone. Now, here's the cool thing I'm super excited about that ChatGPT recently added. It's called Introducing Custom Instructions. This is, I believe, for GPT-4 only. That's what you have access to through the paid version of ChatGPT. And you can put in an overall, here's who I am, here's what I do, And here's how I would like ChatGPT to respond. So if you're using this mainly to write grants, you can put that in here and say, I'm a grant writer. I'm mainly writing for healthcare or environmental advocacy. And here are some of the key terms, and here are things that you need to know about that. And, mainly I write federal grants. So I want the language to be more elevated. I want a lot of research incorporated. And now, instead of just having to put that in every single different chat, you can blanket apply that to your account, which is incredible. The paid version, yes. Now, I want you all to get this in your mindset. If you are a solopreneur without a team, AI is now your new employee. Okay, I've witnessed people give up on it as soon as they give it a simplistic instruction, as I said before, and it doesn't produce exactly what they had in mind. That is not how it works yet, okay? Sorry, there we go. You have to train AI on how you specifically think, write, and what you expect of it. And that's how we as consultants still provide a ton of value, even if we're using AI. One, most people don't know how to use generative AI yet. And it takes a lot of training and practice. And you still have to have really good writing skills to be able to get what you want, because you are its teacher, right? So if you're not teaching it how to write well, it's not going to write as well as you would. All right, I want to take a little break and ask, what is one thing you just learned that was surprising to you? I hope everybody, we're not done yet, but everybody from beginner to advanced, I hope you got, as Elizabeth said earlier, just one little nugget of information. Yeah, that you can train AI to match your tone. Yep, you can train ChatGPT to be more like you. Yes. Yes, that Bard exists. Never heard of Bard. You're welcome for the cheat sheet. Custom instructions. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Since this came out, it was ChatGPT was 3.5 when it came out publicly in November. And then in March, they released 4.0. And the development, the speed at which it learns, it's kind of mind-blowing, and I can't wait to see where we are. Oh, Sandy, I'm sorry, Bard's not available in Canada yet. The likelihood of receiving duplicated AI when using, or duplicated output when using AI for grants. You can test it for sure. You can test it out, but it's thinking every time. And so I'll encourage you today to even put ChatGPT and Bard side by side, put in the same input, and see what you get. Yes, and I'm also sharing these slides with everybody if you want to look at them afterward. We're going to get more into actually implementing these best practices now, and I'm teaching you how to become a prompt engineer. Has anyone heard that term? This is going to be a new career path for people. You've never heard of this term. Yes, okay. Now, here's your task. Open ChatGPT and or Bard. You can do them side by side if you're feeling advanced, as well as the AI grant prompt cheat sheet that I gave you. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Jamie. Now, we're going to start from the most basic level. So people who are more advanced, you might be like, this is not going to give a great result. It's not. We're learning how to, we call it scaffolding in writing instructions, scaffolding skills, so that you learn here, then you go up here, then you go up here, right? Did anyone have writing 101 or composition 101 in college, and then 102, right? We're at 101, we're going to go to 102 by the end. So you can copy and paste this right here. Act as an expert grant writer and write a complete grant proposal with the following sections. Okay. All you're doing is copying this. You're not entering it just yet. Copying it and not entering just yet. Then you're going to do step 2 describe your org. So if you're a consultant, you can just use my cheat sheet. If you're being very, aspirational, you can try to write up your, what I call your 4 W's. So your who, what, where, and why. So I give you an example here and on the cheat sheet of the who, what, where, and why. Anything that you're missing is on the cheat sheet if you missed step 1. So who? We're going to say this is an EV charging station installation nonprofit. Not a good name, but that's just what I named it because it identifies what we're doing. Then our what. So this is your big mission. So your vision plus how you fulfill that mission. We're using our imaginary organization in Park City, Utah. And that's important to include the locale. But if it's a program that's nationwide, you can also say Park City, Utah works nationwide. This one is a local one. Then why? To champion a thriving planet. This is the specific program description and how it fulfills your mission. So here's the specific program. So you can start with simply a program idea in 1 sentence. If you haven't developed a program yet, this will help you develop it. Okay, step 3, you're going to describe the main activity of the program. So if you've got a lot, everyone, sorry, we're just going over it right now. We're going to put it into AI in just a second. You're going to describe the main activity of your program in 1 sentence. The program we're requesting funding for will, and then the main activity. Okay, so here's the example that we have. The program we're requesting funding for will build 5,000 EV charging stations near our facilities and in associated communities, and will incorporate energy efficient technologies for fast and convenient EV charging. Then here's an extra step that is going to elevate even this simple grant draft, which is identifying the grant maker. So if you have an opportunity already selected, you're going to identify them by name. Okay, the type of grant maker called, so then the grant maker's name, then funding priorities include, and literally just copy and paste this. You don't need to come up with your own. In fact, you want to have their language in there. So my example for my imaginary nonprofit, I picked this real ride and drive electric FOA and copied and pasted this. And this is from the Department of Energy. And I specified it's a federal grant maker because that also will determine the tone of this grant as well. Okay, then you put it all together as one prompt into your AI of choice. So I'll show you how I do this. I have all of this put together up here. Okay, this example right here, starting on page 1, act as an expert grant writer, copy all of that down to here, and then we'll put it directly into ChatGPT. And I'm just using 3.5, that's the free version. And I will put it into Bard as well. So you don't have to do any writing, just copy and paste what I have there to see how this works. Okay, now this is the funny thing ChatGPT always does. They always put it into a letter format if you ask it in this simplistic way. But that's fine for our purposes today. It gives you the intro, it gives you the organizational history and mission, and a place to put the year it was founded, the mission statement you provided it with, and then it even starts a statement of need. Then it gives you a program design. So if, again, you're looking for program design ideas, it starts with that. It just tells you insert logic model here. We can fix that. And then budget, evaluation plan, and the end. Now let's see what Bard gave us. And if anybody wants to share, and if you're looking at yours and it doesn't look exactly the same, let me know. Okay, so here we have executive summary, organizational history and mission. I like this because they don't put it into a letter format. Yep, Jamie says it does not look the same, right? Because it's thinking every time. AI can create logic models. It's wild. The statement of need, program design, this automatically made a logic model for us. So you would just have to put that into a logic model template. If you have one, we have one on file we use. If they don't provide one, it creates it. Conclusion. Now, to me, this is phenomenal for a starting point. But if you use the detailed prompts, so for example, my program design prompt has 12 parts to it, and it defines what each of those parts are in detail. So if I were to put that in here, it would give me pages of a program design versus just this little part right here. Okay, so that's starting point, and we're going to now go up from that in the next section. All right, so even those of you who are advanced, I hope you learned just a little bit of something. But everybody, I'd love for you to share just with this initial draft that nobody would turn in for a grant that you use as a starting point. Tell me what's one interesting strategy you just learned or what questions you have. Okay. Vicky says, amazing. Jamie has a good question. I think it's up to you in terms of citing ChatGPT. Some people cite it, some people do not. Even if you use it for clients, your clients, I guarantee you, cannot produce what you will be able to produce with it once you have your prompts refined. Having a template. Yeah. Yes. Do not cite tech help. Shay said, don't cite tech help. Yes, it's a huge, huge time saver. I think it can 10x your grant writing speed. Now we're graduating from 101 to 102. Okay, we're in grant writing with AI 102. This is how you get a response you would actually submit to a grant maker. Detailed section by section prompts for generative AI. I'm only giving the statement of need section because that's all we have time for today. Okay, statement of need. Here are what I consider the essential rhetorical moves that you need to do in a statement of need. Localize the problem and its impact. Connect the problem to your solution. Your solution is your program design. And support your claims with research, all of which we can do right here. Now, as someone mentioned earlier, or as I said earlier also, there is in ChatGPT Plus, it once gave you access to turn on browse with Bing before starting your chat. That feature is currently disabled because it was pulling direct quotes from the internet and not saying it was a direct quote. So that's an issue. And so they disabled it, and it's been down for a couple months now, like 3 months, and they're trying to fix it because we don't want to plagiarize, right? Now, Web ChatGPT is a free extension you can download and install very easily. And you can decide if you want it on or off when you're using ChatGPT. I only turn mine on for the statement of need section, and then I turn it back off. Why? Because I don't want it pulling in information, telling me how to do what I'm telling it to do, which is a problem with it. Okay. An even easier way is to switch over to Bard when you need to get research support for your statement of need. So that's what I'll show you how to do today. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is localize the problem. So broadly identify the problem you're working on. For this imaginary project, it's the need for electric vehicle charging stations. But a mistake I see a lot of people do in the statement of need is they'll talk about that like at the national level. If you have a local project, you need to provide local data and research. So add the specific location where you're working, for example, Park City, Utah. Then you can add from your own brain, your own knowledge, the specific local challenges your work addresses if you know it. Okay, so for example, Park City is a popular destination for EV drivers because it's home to several ski resorts. Many of these visitors drive EVs and they need access to charging stations while they're in the area. There are only 55 EV charging stations in Park City. This makes it difficult for EV drivers to find a place to charge their cars, and it can even deter people from ultimately choosing an EV. Now, if you're not sure about those specifics, go to BARD. Okay, this whole section I got right here, all I did was ask BARD, what are the specific local challenges to having an electric vehicle in Park City, Utah? And it gave me that. So here's a prompt you could use, okay, to get that research. Please explain the need for the following project and put that directly into BARD. Now, you can copy this straight off the cheat sheet if you want to. So let's copy that and put it into BARD. I'll also put it into ChatGPT just to show you the difference. Yeah, I'm going to provide the slides to you all. Okay, so sometimes you will get that response and you might have to change up the language. I put this in yesterday, it worked just fine. Now it worked. So that's a tip or trick for you. If it doesn't work, say regenerate draft. Now it tells us what the need is and gives us real data. Now, if you asked on ChatGPT, it could make this up, and it will make this up to make a good argument. That's why we're asking BARD, or you can use web ChatGPT. And it gives us, here's how to improve EV charging energy efficiency. And then it gives us the real sources. And if you copy and paste these, it will work. All right, to get more detail, ask follow-up questions. I'm going to speed along here because I know I'm getting near the end of my time. I saw your message, Mia. You can also go in and add impact for specific things, right? We don't just want to talk about the problem of not having the charging stations. What's the impact on Park City, Utah? It has the third worst air quality in the US based on the EPA's air quality index. Again, where did I find that? I just asked ChatGPT or BARD, what is the impact on pollution and emissions? Okay. So for example, can you add information on the air quality in Utah in comparison to other states? And with BARD, I always say, please cite your sources. If you're using ChatGPT with web ChatGPT, it will include the sources without asking. BARD, you have to ask. How can you get it to share the links to the research to cite correctly? Well, let me show you that. You can just go and say, please rewrite your sources in APA style. If you want to use MLA, you could do that, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, now it gives me APA style, and it also rewrote it to correctly provide in-text citations. So if you're someone who wants in-text citations, just tell it that and it will do it. And then of course you can go and check all of these sources and make sure, that they are in fact true, because we don't want to be providing false information, right? Okay, so there's more notes on citations. I knew you all were going to ask that. I like about ChatGPT that when it is actually able to access the internet, it incorporates in-text citations with clickable links. So it will put a link, kind of like a little footnote in the text. And then if you wanted to actually have it works cited at the bottom, you just have to ask it. So they all have different ways of doing it. Also, this is a fun trick. If you know of good sources, copy and paste the URL of the source and then prompt Bard or ChatGPT with web ChatGPT enabled and ask it to add information from that page. So please use information from this web page to add further support. And this is a real page that I had. I'll show you real quick how to do that. And again, I recommend you take these prompts after this session, play around with them, and see what comes up. Yeah. So this kind of gives a summary of the report. You can then say, okay, please turn this into a statement of need for the grant mentioned previously. Okay, and I would probably redo that to include more from my prompts to get a good response, but it does give more detail. The other thing you can do is if you provide web chat GPT with a link to a source, it will find other related similar sources that will support that source. So all you have to do is copy and paste that in with web chat GPT enabled, and it will give you 10 more sources. Okay, so then connect the problem to your solution. It's again, more of the same. I'll try to wrap this up really quickly here and ask you all, what's one surprising thing you just learned and what questions you have? And Jenny said she's irrationally angry. Jenny, when I first started doing this, I have anxiety. Anybody else have anxiety? But when I started doing this, I would literally feel dizzy sitting here and seeing what this could do. And I was immediately alarmed, like, I'm going to be out of a job in 2 months. I'm going to have to find a new business. We're not there yet. Okay. We are not there yet. Yes. And it does require revision and editing beyond what it does. I mean, if you want to know more about this, I know somebody asked in the chat, you have these prompts. I gave you access to these in the cheat sheet, so you can go in there and use these and play around with them. But if you want to learn like how to do this for every section, then how to revise, how to edit, how to train it on your tone and style, I do have a course called Write Your Grant in 1 hour using AI. And I think y'all might pop that into the chat. I'm actually doing a new training on the 27th for this. So we have 10 hours of recorded training in there. We have a 100+ page workbook that actually teaches you the principles of grant writing more in depth, because I think you should know them even if you are using AI. Otherwise, you won't know if what you wrote or what it generated is good, right? And you do still have to be a good writer to be a good prompt engineer. So if you want to learn from A to Z how to do all of this, definitely check that out. Here's the info on it. We're also now starting a new thing where we do an hour workshop each month. So in addition to the training, you can come and get your stuff worked on. All right, now Q&A, ask away. I know you all have lots of questions, concerns, and everybody in here, I think, is either a consultant or an aspiring consultant. So let me know. I'm here to answer the hard questions. Clarissa said, should we share with clients that we are using AI? I think this is really dependent on what type of clients you are using. Mine know that I'm using AI, and I've gotten clients who attended my AI courses, and they're like, now we want to hire you, even though they know I'm using AI. To me, if it's an academic researcher, that knowledge is proprietary, and I don't ever want to share that with an AI chatbot unless they have given me permission, right? That's their intellectual property. And the other thing is, AI is learning from you unless you tell it not to. So on ChatGPT, in the settings, there is a way to say, do not allow your team to review my responses. So no one's ever going to, an actual person is not going to see them, but AI is learning and building new parameters by learning, like, okay, if this person says a statement of need, it includes these 3 essential rhetorical moves that I taught you, right? And it's going to learn over time how to get better and better. So it's really up to you. But let me see if I can pull this setting. I have not had any clients have a problem with it. Oops, I think I closed my ChatGPT. On ChatGPT, settings, data controls, save new chats on this browser to your history and allow them to be used to improve our models. Okay, so I allow it because I want it to save my history and learn from me. And also know some people are going to be upset that people are using this and they feel like their ideas are being stolen. I think that's a valid concern. I also think about the fact that ChatGPT probably read a bunch of my blog posts, and that's one of the ways that it learned how to come up with the parameters it came up with for grant writing. It's probably used some of our words, folks who are sitting right here. So, you know, to me, I was like, I'm either going to get on this train or it's going to leave the station without me. I always like to be an early tech adopter. That's just part of who I am. Other people may disagree and may never want to touch this, and that's totally fine. I think AI has the ability to enhance our human capabilities in a way that can eliminate a lot of repetitive, needless work that we have been taught by capitalism to value. So I think if we decide how we use it and don't let it control how we use it, then we can kind of change what doing this work looks like, right? We can work less. I've just increased some of my packages, some of the amounts of grants that or the number of grants I can write on my packages for the same amount of money because I can do it faster. So that's providing added value to your clients. Yeah, Jenny said how to learn MLA and APA. Even when I was in grad school, we had apps like EasyBib that would put your citations into the right one. And Lou says, I think if you have an idea, others have thought of it already somewhere else. I agree. I believe in collective consciousness. And so to me, this is, I wouldn't write a piece of creative writing. Like I would not write a fiction novel using AI. And that's part of the writer's strike issue, right? They're doing creative writing that they don't believe should be done by an AI, or even for those who are like, I'm okay with AI writing it, but you have to pay us better. You have to ensure us job security, all of that. So I believe this is a highly technical field of writing. And the quality of writing itself is not the end goal. The end goal is, as Elizabeth said, doing good work in the world, getting these organizations the funding they need to save lives, in her case, right? So to me, this is a side issue, and it's also one about democratizing access to funding. Because if you can take this session with me or take my whole course and learn in a couple hours how to write better than you ever could by yourself, then you don't have to spend all of this time asking rich people and the federal government for money. You can fulfill your mission. Focus on what you really want to do, helping people. Yeah, Luke said if you have an innovative method, protect it. Don't put it online or in ChatGPT, right? My stuff, like for grant writing made easy, for grant writing boss club, it's behind a paywall. It's my best stuff. It's not online for everybody to see. So if that's an issue for you, definitely keep it private and behind a paywall. Chan said, yeah, via capitalism, you will outprice anyone. Doing original writings, we collectively can't control how it gets used. Yeah, to an extent, I think that's true. You can't beat capitalism by engaging capitalism, but I have not found a way to get out of capitalism in all these years, as much as I hate it. So I'm doing what I do and trying to make it as equitable as I can personally make it and encourage others to do the same. Thanks, Mia. Okay, 5 minutes left. Other questions, concerns? A paywall is where you have to pay and then log in, like Instrumentl. That's software you have to pay to get access to and you log in. Yep. J and C. Yes, AI has allowed people with no hope of receiving grants before the ability to enter that space, right? Exactly. That's what I mean by democratizing. My business model has always focused on the education and democratization of grant writing first, because I know a lot of people can't afford to pay consultants like us. It's a lot of money and a lot of investment up front without a guarantee. If you can educate yourself on how to do this without, high level skills in writing, I have a PhD in writing. I don't want everybody to have a PhD in writing or a grant writing certification to be able to access the funding that they deserve. So that's why I believe AI is it's a crucial game changer for the field of philanthropy. We haven't seen it fully come to fruition because people are still learning. Okay. Somebody said, how do I see the role of AI evolving in the grant writing field in the coming years? Oh, this is the thing I'm so excited about. So I really think grant makers are going to get inundated with more grant applications than they could have ever imagined. And they're going to have to change their grant making requirements, processes, criteria. And I hope that it will lead them to simplify and I'm gonna use the word again, democratize the process. Okay. I've already talked to someone, I've talked to a prospective client who said they are doing they're writing at least one grant a day and submitting a grant a day. I'm not for that. I'm about, only submitting to the best opportunities. That's too many in my opinion. But the grant makers are going to have to deal with this. They're going to have to respond. And yes, they have software, but it's still being inundated and it's going to be harder for them to do their job. So they've got to figure out how to make it more equitable. Yes, Karen, they need people to feed these tools. And most people don't know how to feed the tools. So if you jump in on this now, you'll be one of the people who are going to benefit the most. I don't know if grant makers using AI to review yet. I bet folks like the Rockefeller Foundation, the Ford Foundation, Gates Foundation have already figured that out and are doing it, but not sharing it. That's something I need to research more and keep up to date on. Yes, I'm already seeing more and more local funders doing invite only. I know we're getting, I shouldn't have said capitalism because we're getting into a whole capitalism conversation, but I always bring up capitalism in every conversation. So I apologize, you guys. Yeah, Jamie, I've seen that using ChatGPT to score with a rubric. Absolutely. And I also encourage you guys to look into other AI tools that can enhance your workflow. So I mentioned in the chat earlier during Elizabeth's session that we are using reclaim.ai. to connect to our project management system and then tell us when to work on different projects, and it pre-fills our schedule. That might stress some people out, but it helps me. I have ADHD. So if somebody says, okay, this is when you should be working on this project that you've already told us when it's due, how long it's going to take, its priority level, then my brain doesn't have to try to figure out when to do it and how to get it done. It does that for me. There are so many tools like that beyond your wildest imagination. So if there's a task you hate, I have a list of tasks I hate, and then I just pick ones off of that and I look up what's an AI that can do this. All right, everybody, I want to thank you so much for having me here today. It's super fun. I hope that you can take something away from this and implement it right away. Feel free to take that cheat sheet, use it, save it to your desktop or whatever. And oh, nice, Bardeen. I haven't seen that one. I'm going to check that out. Also, if you don't mind, I'm going to share the link to my course again with the chat. If you want to learn more about it, that's where you get the nitty-gritty in-depth stuff. We have a Slack workspace. We're doing live workshops and trainings, so there's a lot of support there. You're so welcome. Thank you all.
Amazing, Krista. Thank you so much. I think that we can talk about AI for days, and this is definitely a topic that, fires people up. So thank you so much for sharing.